Hello everyone and welcome to the final episode of Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews. And let me be the first to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you all. I hope you've all been enjoying this year's string of reviews so far. I certainly have had fun looking at some great new pieces and old favorites of mine. But I made sure to save one of the best for last. I wanted this year to be the biggest season of Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews yet, and when it comes to affordable dinosaur figures, it doesn't get much bigger than this. Ladies and gentlemen, today's review is of this, the Nanmu Apatosaurus Bastion. Gotta love these Nanmu names. Think I'll call mine Seb. You know, like Seb Bastion. That's clever, right? Anyway, this is one of my most anticipated figures of the year. I love big sauropod models, and I love Nanmu. So when I saw that Nanmu was making a big sauropod model, I about flipped. And now that there's nearly a month between us and Nanmu November, it seems as good a time as any to finally be reviewing this massive beast. So let's go ahead and jump right in with the packaging. As with most of Nanmu's boxes, this one features the 3D sculpted model of the Apatosaurus across the face of the box, as well as the Nanmu logo and ink and water design behind it, and the title of the figure can be found in the lower right corner. There's really not much else to the packaging. The top is just the title, the back is more brand stuff, the bottom, the brand again, they don't want you forgetting who this is from, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward, nothing flashy, but it's cool to see the original sculpt shown off. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and unbox Bastion. So like all of the Nanmu figures, this Apatosaurus comes with a beautiful art card featuring the animal strolling through a Jurassic environment. I need to figure out something to do with all of this stuff because it all looks so great. I want to display it somehow. These are all such gorgeous additions to the figure itself, and then the back of it features some assembly instructions for your Apatosaurus. You've also got a card featuring some beautiful sketches of Apatosaurus, and then on the back there is some information that I unfortunately cannot read. Now let's go ahead and get to the figures themselves. There you can see Bastion looking absolutely fantastic through his clear plastic shipping sleeve, despite needing some assembly. And of course we have a 2-scale human figure. This time around it is Dr. Henry Wu, or Mr. Henry Wu after the events of Jurassic World. It's hard to make out any detail on this little figure, but it's a great inclusion to give you an idea of the scale. And I love being able to display some classic Jurassic characters around these awesome Nanmu models. But now for the dinosaur, the reason we're all here. And there he is. Gosh, he looks awesome. And he's not even put together yet. You've got some instructions here for assembly. It's a simple matter of heating the attachment points and inserting the tail. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, then I'll be right back. And there is Bastion, finally in one piece. I know glue is mentioned as being useful to make sure there's no seam to the figure, but honestly, I just popped the tail in, and you can see that that's working just fine. I like to have the option to be able to take my dinosaurs apart in the event that I need to pack up and take them somewhere. So glue was right out for me. And at a distance, I wouldn't even know where the seam on the tail is if there wasn't that disparity in color, but we'll get to that. Now, normally I'd be giving you guys a nice 360-degree view of this monster, but there's no way my itty-bitty review space could accommodate this thing turning around. Heck, I had to switch to a wider lens just to get this much of him in frame. That's how large and in charge he is. That being said, as far as static first impressions of this thing go, gosh darn it, is it impressive. Sizable and beautifully sculpted with a lovely paint job. So let's not waste any time and move in for a closer look. So here is the head of Bastion, and there's just so much detail on this thing. Wow! The wrinkles around the mouth, the crosshatch scale details on the cheeks and snout, the bags around those striking orange eyes, all of that is so gorgeously done. And the dry brushing on the face really helps all of that detail come to life. I'm particularly impressed with the directionality of all those skin details. They really appear to have been thought out in regards to the movement of the face, which is great to see. I mean, gosh, I don't know what to say. It's a beautiful sculpt that perfectly captures the likeness of the Jurassic World animal. Here, just enjoy it for a moment. I'll shut up. Moving down the neck, I love the bunching up of the skin around the base of the skull, and Nanmu have done a great job capturing the sort of box-like shape of Apatosaurus' neck. The muscle tones have all been very well sculpted, and as you can see, the entire surface area has been covered in lovely wrinkles and striations. The way the skin buckles and folds at the shoulder blades looks fantastic. There's a real sense of weight to the wrinkles here, which helps sell the lifelike appearance of this model. The texture is largely the classic pachyderm-esque leathery skin details, but it's so well done on this figure. I mean, just look at all that. Look at how the skin is hanging down around the gut and pulling away from the back leg. That's all so gorgeous. And then you have this wonderful crosshatch leathery skin texture beneath the folds. You can see that these skin striations continue all the way down the length of that graceful curling tail, which is really pushing the boundaries of my review space. There is a row of osteoderms that run down the back of the tail that begins just past the hips, and you can see that there are some larger bumps that can be found dotted throughout the sculpt as well, to give the detail some breakup. I mean, wow, I cannot get over the skin work. It's so well done, it blows my mind. This honestly may be some of the best skin details I have ever seen on a model, and that's on top of the impressive size and all the great forms we have been given with this piece. I already mentioned the great neck, but you've also got the great musculature in the shoulder region and at the trunk of the massive tail and how beautifully that tapers off. And then there's the massive sagging gut. Gosh, that looks awesome. It is so great to have a sauropod figure with a nice drooping gut finally. Taking a look at the arms of this figure, you can see that they are incredibly well muscled and extremely pillar-like, which is great. There are some seams here, but they're very well hidden by all of that great skin work. The feet feature the accurate single thumb spike, and all of the wrinkle work here is just as well done as everywhere else. The back legs are even more beefy, with wonderful details on the kneecap and down around the ankles as the force of the creature's step pushes the skin in on itself. The back feet are once again correct in depicting 3 toe claws and a slight outward curve. The toe claws themselves have been painted in a dark gray with a sort of coppery weathering to them. Moving along the underbelly, you can see some great muscles in the lower jaw, and the sagging skin in the throat region looks great. There's also a dual row of osteoderms on either side of the throat, which is a cool detail. And the wrinkle work in the pectorals is insanely gorgeous. I love how baggy it all looks until you hit the swell of the gut and then it sort of stretches out. This is what I'm talking about when I say the skin movement makes sense. And speaking of that, you can see all of that pulling skin around the gut and limbs there, which looks great, because of course it does. From down here, I will say that the feet shape aren't entirely correct on the arms there. I think they should be more crescent-shaped, but that's an incredibly nitpicky accuracy complaint on a model that is inspired by Jurassic World and not even meant to be accurate to begin with. Then as we move across the top, you can see that sort of indication of the gap in the vertebrae of the neck that slowly converges the further down the body we go, as well as those spasmodic osteoderms and the row that runs down the tail. I honestly could not indicate a single aspect of this sculpt that I did not think is well done. This is easily one of the best sculpted sauropods in my collection, as well as one of the best offerings from Nanmu so far in terms of detail work. And that's really saying something, because there have been some real humdingers from them. Equally gorgeous to the sculpt is the paintwork. Now, you may have noticed by now that I chose to go with the color scheme not from the Jurassic World films, and I did so because this color scheme is just infinitely more visually interesting than the dull grays and greens of the movie version. And I think the lighter color actually helps to highlight all of those details. As far as specifics go, the best way to describe the color scheme would be the poor man's Sideshow Collectibles Apatosaurus color scheme. Like the Sideshow offering, the Nanmu color scheme is done in a reddish-brown tone that gradiates into a darker dry brush across the dorsal region. The underbelly is a yellowed cream tone that bands the neck, legs, and tail in a candy cane-like fashion. I also like the way that the brown coloration sort of runs and drips down the flanks and creates a spotted pattern of the cream colors on the side. That's a lovely treatment, very well applied and eye-catching. There are also plenty of washes to make sure that all of that detail is immediately noticeable both up close and at a distance. Normally I would be kind of disappointed this model didn't come up with a more original color scheme, but since I have always liked the colors on the Sideshow Apatosaurus and will never ever be able to afford that statue for myself, I'm glad to have this as a substitute. I'm also just always excited to see colors that are somewhat more vibrant than the traditional gray tones of sauropods. So yeah, this color scheme is a winner in my book. The one thing I have a problem with is how much darker the tail is than the rest of the figure. You can see a distinct cutoff in paint from the body and attached tail. I don't know why it's like this, but it bugs the heck out of me. It looks like they just got a little too heavy-handed with the color here, and the result is crippling to the model's overall sense of realism. I mean, at a distance, I don't see a single seam on this thing, and I honestly wouldn't even notice that the tail was separate if the colors matched. So it's really unfortunate. But beyond that, I can't find anything that's less than satisfactory on this thing. This is one of those models that does so much right, and with its massive size, it's easily one of the most impressive pieces in my collection. It's sculpted in a walking position there, nothing too extreme or anything, but I honestly am half expecting it to take a step forward as I sit here reviewing it. It's that good. As far as the size on this model goes, it does not disappoint in the slightest. Honestly, it's kind of hard for me to even measure it given how massive it is. I got it in at about 29 inches long, but bear in mind I'm struggling here, and if you were to stretch out the tail, it would be even longer. As far as the height goes, at the top of the shoulder, this model comes in at just past 6 inches off the ground, and maybe ever so slightly higher if you measured at its head. For size comparison, I'm going to start off by bringing in another sizable sauropod. It's the Apatosaurus, and you can see that even that hefty beast is dwarfed by the Nanmu offering in length. It's a little taller off the ground and a lot heavier given Nanmu's vinyl nature, but still I don't think it's nearly as impressive. Next up, here is the Nanmu Apatosaurus next to the Papo Apatosaurus, previously your best bet for getting a Jurassic-style Apatosaurus, and I'm sure you're all aware that that is an impressively long model, but even it looks absolutely tiny next to this Nanmu Apatosaurus. I will say they work great as a fully grown adult and juvenile, so if you wanted an adult Apatosaurus to go along your juvenile one from Papo, then here you go. And now we have the Safari Ltd Apatosaurus, a wonderful sauropod from the company, but again, absolutely dwarfed by that Nanmu figure. Here it is alongside the Collectabrontosaurus, one of the few Collecta figures to survive my downsizing after I came off that kick. And you can see that we're just getting smaller and smaller with these sauropod figures. That Collectabrontosaurus looks like a baby next to this Nanmu beast. And for a final sauropod comparison, gotta bring in the recently reviewed, always amazing Batat Diplodocus, and these two are a sight to behold next to one another. Not to scale or anything, but yeah, no matter how little shelf space I may have, I will always make room for sizable sauropod models because they're amazing to display. Alright, now for some Nanmu figures I looked at during Nanmu November, going to start off with the smallest. It's the Berserker Raptor, aka the Indoraptor, and you can see that that figure looks absolutely minuscule compared to this Apatosaurus, as it well should. Then we've got the Carnotaurus Ranger, my first Nanmu figure ever, and you can see that you'd need a whole pack of them if they were going to want to bring down Bastion here. And what I love about these Nanmu figures is that they have a real sense of belonging. They look absolutely amazing together. And now here it is with the Ankylosaurus Mace, and these two are kindred spirits, seeing that they both got their butts kicked by the Indominus Rex, which, gosh darn it, I realize now I have to get that one from Nanmu as well. There's no choice anymore. Here is Bastion with the Sinoceratops, aka Tower Shield. Why not just Shield? Where's their tower? Anyway, again, they look great together and seem to size up very well with each other. And now here it is with a Jurassic contemporary, the Allosaurus Blade. And you know, these are among the few Nanmu figures that manage to be both distinctly Jurassic while also maintaining some decent levels of accuracy. So if you're in the market for some sizable and highly detailed Morris Information figures, then these might be the way to go. Next up, here is the Nanmu Apatosaurus with the amazing Spinosaurus Supplanter, and I've been saying for a while that these mid-sized figures are easily the best Nanmu have done. The T-Rex, Spinosaurus, and hopefully the Giganotosaurus when all is said and done. But honestly, I think Bastion here could hang with the best of them. And speaking of the best of them, here is Bastion with the Tyrannosaurus Rex Alpha, one of the most amazing models currently in my collection. And you can see how those two size up with one another. I'm tempted to let the video just play because dang, I love looking at these two. And for a final Nanmu comparison, here is the Lord of the Abyss next to Bastion. These are the two largest models from Nanmu thus far, and if you caught my review of the Mosasaurus, you know full well that I did not much care for that figure in the grand scheme of things, despite its impressive size. I will say that Bastion here is a massive improvement over the work of that Mosasaurus. All of these Nanmu figures have been reviewed on the channel, so if you're interested in hearing more about them, be sure to check the links in the description below. Oh, and can't forget to bring in Chris Pratt, and there he is, looking pretty tiny next to this Apatosaurus. And hey, now you can relive the heart-crushing thrills of Jurassic World as you watch the life slowly fade from your Nanmu Apatosaurus, while Chris Pratt attempts fruitlessly to comfort it. You can even bring in Claire, so she can experience a change of heart due to the death of this majestic creature. Non-stop fun. Thanks, Nanmu. And that was the Nanmu Apatosaurus Bastion. This is definitely a dynamite figure that gets a roaring seal of approval. It's easily among my favorites that Nanmu have produced so far, and for good reason. Its massive size, eye-catching colors, and gorgeous detail work make it an obvious standout. And for $70 or so, depending on where you get yours from, I don't think you could ask for anything more. It may not be solid in its material, but it is solid in every other aspect of its design. I highly recommend this figure, not just to fans of Jurassic, but to anyone who enjoys large sauropod models. Like I said, it's fairly accurate for being inspired by a creature of film, so this is one of those figures that can please all. I know $70 is a hefty chunk of change to be thrown at a dinosaur model, but like the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Spinosaurus before it, this has become one of my favorite pieces in my collection, and I don't doubt it would be a favorite of yours too. So it is incredibly worth the money. And with that, another season of Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews comes to an end. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who watched even one of these reviews or any of the reviews I posted throughout the year. Your support, both new and old, is the gift that keeps on giving, and it's really what keeps me making these reviews. I love talking about this stuff, and the fact that you all come to listen means so much to me. Making this series can be a lot, and it certainly was this year, but the prospect of sparking conversations with people who share the same interest, or even just the opportunity to entertain fellow dino fans for just a few minutes, is always enough to keep me pushing through. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. After the year we had, I wanted to go all out for you to celebrate nearly making it to the end. So congratulations to you all. Thank you for tuning into this final episode of Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews, and from my family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.